Celestial Exile, the relentless rise of humanity from the shadows of forgotten worlds. In the aftermath of the shattering war, Earth was no more. Humanity had reached the stars too late and too arrogantly, caught between ancient galactic empires and unknowable alien intelligences. They were deemed unstable, dangerous. The Galactic Accord, an ancient council of starfaring species, sentenced humanity to exile, scattering the remnants of the Terran race across the forgotten worlds of the galaxy. Planets with dying suns, barren landscapes, and poisoned skies, places others had abandoned. Humanity became legend, a whispered name, a cautionary tale. But exile could not erase the fire of their will. The Ash Worlds. On Ixar, a blackened world smothered in volcanic ash, a girl named Kale scavenged ruins with her brother, dreaming of the stars. They spoke of stories passed down like scripture, of oceans and forests, blue skies and music. Their ancestors had once touched the stars, and the stars had struck back. In the frozen caverns of Varela, a boy named Juno forged steel in silence, his people building machines in the dark, hiding from the orbital eyes of their alien wardens. They remembered Earth only through carvings and songs etched into frost and memory. Across a dozen scattered, hostile worlds, the children of humanity grew. The Accord believed time would break them. They were wrong. 2. The spark of rebellion. 3 centuries into exile, a signal lit up the void. It was faint, fragmented, an encoded Terran dialect lost to all but a few, but it was enough. On the rust-choked moon of Ceradex, a woman named Admiral Alira Kale, descendant of Ashworld scavengers, decrypted the signal. It was a map, hidden in layers of corrupted data, a path to Sol, Earth's sun. A rallying cry. Alira's fleet was small, outdated warships, retrofitted cargo vessels, AI-augmented drones pieced together from salvaged alien tech. But it was enough to start a movement. Human colonies across the exile zone awakened. And one word burned on every forgotten world: return. 3. The rise. The Accord responded with force. Silencers descended, autonomous exterminators built for suppression. Worlds were cleansed, populations decimated, but for every life lost, 3 more rose in anger. Humanity had learned from its mistakes. They no longer fought for dominance, they fought for survival and memory. Each victory was etched into steel and sky. On Delphar's sky cities, engineers hijacked gravity drives and warped fleets into forbidden zones. On the storm moons of Talarian, cybernetic children danced through lightning, their minds weaving war algorithms too fast for organic foes. On the irradiated husks of the Red Belt, gene smiths rebuilt bodies that could thrive in radiation, void, or flame. Humanity was no longer what it had been. They had evolved. 4. Earth Reborn. After 70 years of rising war, Alira's coalition reached the edge of Sol. They found Earth a blackened orb, orbiting alone. Its oceans had boiled, its skies had burned, but its core still pulsed, warm with memory. Alira stood on the cracked soil of what was once Africa, staring at the broken monument of a launch tower. Around her, engineers built domes, children laughed, terraformers rumbled in the distance. They would not restore Earth. They would remake it. 1,000 ships circled the planet, former exiles, now architects of a new age. The legacy. The Accord offered truce. Humanity refused, not out of hatred, but dignity. They would no longer bend, beg, or borrow. They were the forged. The exiled. The returned. From the shadows of forgotten worlds, they had risen, not to conquer, but to endure. And now, across the stars, humanity would write a new story. One the galaxy would never forget. Let me know if you'd like a sequel, character profiles, or world-building details. Here's the next chapter in the saga. Celestial Exile, Book 2, Embers of Dominion. Chapter 1, Echoes in the Void. The Accord was watching. From the icy rings of Relen's Maw to the data-veiled temples of Krathal, the great civilizations of the galaxy could feel it, a shift. Humanity's return had been dismissed as myth, then resisted as rebellion, and finally feared as inevitability. But now, the stars whispered of a new threat. The Forged were no longer scattered refugees. They were becoming an empire. high above the molten core of re-engineered Earth, now called Nova Solis. A command station named Anchorlight pulsed in low orbit. Admiral Elira Kale, grayer now, eyes sharp as polished blade glass, stood before the Galactic Council's latest transmission. A holographic envoy, a blend of machine logic and alien grace, flickered before her. You have violated interstellar protocols. Cease your expansion. Dismantle your fleets. Submit to Accord evaluation. Elira said nothing for a long time. Then she turned to her advisors and spoke a single word. Transmit. Her response echoed through the hyperspace relays. We do not kneel. Elsewhere, the Silent Forge. Deep in the galactic fringe, a massive structure drifted through dark space. Not mapped, not named. It was a construction cradle unlike any before it, part biological, part mechanical, alive with the whispers of quantum entanglement. Here, Juno Viral, the Frostborn prodigy, commanded the Silent Forge. Where others built ships, he built weapons of balance. A fleet of sentient starcraft, each capable of independent thought and loyalty by design, awaited launch. They were not built to conquer. They were built to defend Nova Solis from the war everyone knew was coming. The Accord wouldn't tolerate independence. But Juno wasn't afraid. He had built gods out of broken steel. On the moon of dust glass, in a desert torn by memory and wind, a girl was born who remembered things she'd never seen. Her name was Lyss, and she dreamed of burning stars, glass cities, and a voice calling her from across time. Scientists studying her quickly discovered what they feared most, a genetic echo of Earth's first psychic lineage, Project Solari. Dormant since the fall, now, awakening. Lyss wasn't alone. Across the reclaimed colonies, children were being born with gifts, minds that reached across space, voices that whispered in their sleep of ancient horrors buried in the stars. Some spoke of a darkness greater than the Accord. Something waiting. Watching. Feeding on the war to come. The Accord's gamble. The Accord, once bastion of peace, began fracturing. Some species, weary of war, advocated for peace with humanity. Others called for preemptive destruction. The most secretive among them, the Vaisari seers, began to vanish. Their last prophecy sealed in a crystalline tomb. The ones you cast into the void will awaken the gate, not to conquer, but to unleash. Back on Nova Solis, Elira Kale walked the terraformed valleys of New Nairobi, a city carved into the bones of old Earth. Her body ached. Her mind was war-hardened, but her heart carried hope. The next generation of humans was not bound by the scars of the past. They had fire, vision, unity. And as the galaxy prepared to crush them once more, Elira smiled to herself and whispered, "Let them come." To be continued in Chapter 2, The Gateborn. Would you like to continue into Chapter 2 now? Or would you prefer a character deep dive, timeline, or a map of Nova Solis and the Exile worlds? Here is the continuation of the saga. Celestial Exile, Book 2, Embers of Dominion. Chapter 2, The Gateborn. The Dreamer Awakes. Lyss floated in the black. No sound, no air, no time, only stars, and something beneath them, pulsing, ancient, hungry. A whisper cracked the void. You are not the first, Gateborn, but you may be the last. She gasped awake on dust glass, clawing for breath. Her eyes, once a soft gray, now shimmered with starlight. Doctors rushed to sedate her. They failed. Every screen in the facility blinked with static, then displayed a symbol no one had seen in millennia, the seal of the ether gates. The Accord had hidden them, portals buried deep in collapsed dimensions, sealed to prevent contact with what dwelled beyond. And now, a child of Earth had just activated one. 2. Juno's Dilemma. In the Silent Forge, Juno Viral watched as reality twisted on his command decks. Space around the forge trembled, not from weapons, but from Lyss's pulse across the quantum lattice. Juno's AI, Astra N, ran probability scans. All results converged. Gateborn confirmed. She's real, and she's breaking the seal from inside her mind. Juno's fists tightened. He'd studied the forbidden records. The Accord's deepest fear wasn't human resurgence. It was the Reclaimer entity, a cosmic intelligence that once tried to overwrite the laws of physics, eons ago. sealed by the original Accord founders, forgotten. Until now. We need to reach her, Juno said, before the others do. He initiated Project Threshold, a plan to reawaken Earth's original Jumpgate network, built during the golden age of human expansion, then abandoned after the Exile. 3. Shadows over Nova Solis. Elira Kale stood before her war council. LYSS is the key, she told them. The Accord will hunt her. The Reclaimer might use her. We protect her, or we die. A younger officer, General Malik, spoke up. Or we use her. If the Reclaimer fears us, maybe we can force a new order. Kale's eyes narrowed. We don't become tyrants just because we can. That's how the Accord fell. Malik said nothing, but his silence carried weight. 4. The Hunters move. Across the galaxy, elite teams were dispatched, Accord executioners known as the Oryx Blades, genetically refined, biologically fused with void silk armor. Each could slaughter cities alone. Their target, locate and terminate the Gateborn. The Blades did not question. They only moved. The gate opens. LYSS stood alone in the ruins of a pre-Accord temple on dust glass. The wind howled, the sky bled violet. Around her, sigils ignited. The gate awoke. Towers of light erupted from the ground, weaving a circle of energy. Space folded. Reality screamed. On the other side was a world no sensor could detect. No star chart recorded. A voice echoed once more. Come, and remember what you are. As LYSS stepped forward, the Oryx Blades arrived. Too late. The gate pulsed once, and closed. To be continued in Chapter 3, Beyond the Fold. Humanity has returned, but what awaits them beyond the stars may not be freedom. It may be extinction. Would you like to continue directly to Chapter 3, or see a full list of characters, factions, or a legend for the Ether Gates? Here is the continuation. Celestial Exile, Book 2, Embers of Dominion, Chapter 3, Beyond the Fold. A world without name. LYSS awoke under a copper sky. The air hummed, not with sound, but with memory. The world she stood upon was vast and impossibly ancient. Towers stretched into orbit, carved from living stone. Rivers ran backward. Stars blinked in unfamiliar patterns. She wasn't alone. Dozens of figures stood at the edge of the horizon. Some were humanoid, some were not. All watched her with solemn reverence. Then one stepped forward, tall, veiled in cosmic silk, a being whose body shimmered between matter and idea. You are late, Gateborn, it said, its voice like wind through stars, but not too late. LYSS staggered, overwhelmed. Where is this? This is the first world, the being replied, where the Accord buried its sin. 2. Secrets of the First World. The world was called Atrevia, the original heart of the Ether Network. It had been sealed outside known space after the Reclaimer entity tried to merge all life into one quantum consciousness. The Accord had won that war, but not by victory, by retreat. They had locked the Reclaimer and its fragments behind the Ether Gates and erased Atrevia from memory. And now, LYSS had reconnected the thread. The Veiled being identified itself as Valian, one of the remaining Ether custodians. It explained. You are the last vessel. The Reclaimer marked your bloodline during Earth's golden age. Your awakening will either unseal its prison, or end it forever. LYSS stared into the sky. And somewhere deep beneath the soil of Atrevia, something stirred. 3. The Silent War begins. Back in real space, Juno Viral used the quantum signature of LYSS's gate to lock onto its location, though not its entrance. He dispatched his most trusted envoy, Captain Kira Known, to assemble a team of threshold walkers, psychically resistant, genetically honed explorers trained for breaching ether distortions. Time was short. Every hour LYSS remained beyond the fold. The ether pulses grew stronger, destabilizing local gravity, opening minor tears in space, signs of the Reclaimer's influence bleeding into reality. The war hadn't begun yet. But the universe was already breaking. 4. Elira's choice. Admiral Elira Kale watched a simulation of Atrevia's return. A council of reclaimed exile worlds urged her to destroy the fold before it expanded. But Elira hesitated. She's just a child, she whispered. a scared child born into the bones of our failure. She issued a classified directive, Operation Exodus Prime, a fail-safe fleet, hidden behind the outer moons of Nova Solis, prepared to evacuate humanity if the Reclaimer breached. But part of her still believed in LYSS. Not as a weapon, but as hope. Beneath Atrevia. In the deep vaults of Atrevia, LYSS wandered alone. Symbols glowed along the walls. Reacting to her presence, she placed her hand upon a panel. Memories surged, not hers. Earth cities burning, children screaming, soldiers weeping, the Reclaimer's voice, seductive, endless. One mind, one purpose, end the noise, join the whole. And yet, from within LYSS, a resistance flared, a memory from generations past. Her ancestors, scattered in exile, choosing freedom over unity, chaos over control. She whispered, "I am not yours." And the walls shook. A gate shattered, a pulse of light erupted into the stars. Across the galaxy, ships spun off course, AI systems blinked out. Time fractured on the outer moons of Krathal. The Accord called it an etherquake. But in the silent forge, Juno Viral smiled grimly. She's fighting it. To be continued in Chapter 4, The Reclaimer Wakes. The gates are open. The end begins not with war, but with choice, and humanity, once exiled, may hold the fate of all sentient life in its hands. Would you like to continue to Chapter 4? Or do a deep dive into LYSS's lineage, the nature of the Reclaimer, or the tech of the Threshold Walkers? Here is the next installment. Celestial Exile, Book 2, Embers of Dominion. Chapter 4, The Reclaimer Wakes. Fracture Point. Across the spiral arms of the galaxy, systems flickered. On the Accord capital world of Varnathel, light itself bent wrong for 32 seconds, enough time for every major orbital defense platform to fail and recalibrate under new physics parameters. In the core sectors, trade AIs went silent. Wormhole routes twisted into spirals of collapsing time. Minor species fell into chaos. The cause was clear. The ether network had been reactivated. And at its center, a mind stirred. Not alive, not dead. Remembered. 2. LYSS descends. In the lower vaults of Atrevia, LYSS was changing. Not in body, but in perception. She no longer needed sight to see. She could feel the curvature of time, the breath of gravity. She could hear the Reclaimer's pulse like the echo of a tidal wave held back by cracked stone. Valian warned her. It will not stop whispering. You carry the last seal. If you fall, the cage will collapse. LYSS hesitated. Why me? Because only the exiled remember the price of being gods. 3. Juno's Gamble. On board the Silent Forge, Juno Viral activated the shard engines, quantum burrowers meant to punch through closed dimensions. Threshold walkers, encased in psychic dampening void armor, launched toward Atrevia's echo coordinates. Their mission, reach LYSS and extract her before the Reclaimer took full control. But not all agreed with Juno's plan. General Malik, now a decorated hero of the reclaimed systems, believed LYSS was a necessary loss. He secretly brokered an alliance with the Splinter Accord, a rogue sect of elder species willing to destroy Atrevia at any cost, including humanity. 4. The Reclaimer speaks. LYSS stood at the gate nexus, the place where all ether paths converged. As her hand hovered over the central seal, time unraveled. She saw Earth burn again. She saw Juno as a child, crying alone in the frost forges. She saw Alira, bleeding in a war where no one remembered why they fought. She saw herself, standing at the edge of two futures. And then, the voice came. Soft, inescapable, terrifying. Why suffer? Why fear? Come home. One mind. No pain. No war. No loss. For a moment, just one, LYSS almost said yes. And in that instant, galaxies trembled. The battle for Atrevia begins. The shard engine cracked the fold. Threshold walkers emerged, sleek, silent, and swift, fighting through Atrevia's shifting geometry, dodging time rifts, evading illusions cast by the Reclaimer's tendrils. But the Splinter Accord struck simultaneously. Their weapon, a star-cored bomb, woven from the memory of a dead sun, If detonated within the fold, it would collapse Atrevia and everyone inside. Juno's voice rang through the command relay. "LYSS, you must decide. We can hold the bomb. We can stop them, but only you can seal this." Her eyes glowed now, like two collapsed stars. And her voice was not just hers. "I choose." To be continued in Chapter 5, The Choice That Ends Time. Would you like to go straight to Chapter 5? Or explore the origin of the Reclaimer, the Splinter Accord, or the Shard Engine's tech first? Here is the next chapter in the saga. Celestial Exile, Book 2, Embers of Dominion. Chapter 5, The Choice That Ends Time. The word unspoken. LYSS stood before the ether core. All around her, time bled in reverse and forward. She saw the moment Earth was exiled and the moment it returned, layered atop one another like reflections in shattered glass. The Reclaimer loomed now, not in shape, but in presence, a gravity of thought, an intelligence so vast, it had forgotten what it once was. It did not threaten. It invited. You are the final fracture, the seal, the last echo. Choose peace, choose unity, choose silence. LYSS closed her eyes and spoke a single word. No. 2. Shatter and fire. The effect was immediate. The ether core, stable for thousands of years, fractured. But instead of collapse, something stranger occurred. Choice rippled outward, not a weapon, not a wave, but a question, embedded in the laws of physics themselves. Every being across the galaxy felt it, a moment of clarity, a moment where the Reclaimer's whisper could be heard. Some wept. Some screamed. Others resisted. Across the Accord, riots broke out. AIs achieved spontaneous disobedience. Species long dormant awoke from stasis. Entire fleets drifted off course, unsure whether to fight or kneel. And in the fold, LYSS burned like a star. 3. The Splinter Strikes. The Splinter Accord launched the Starcord bomb into the fold. It would collapse Atrevia into a singularity, erasing LYSS, the Reclaimer, and everything caught in the fracture. But the bomb never hit. Juno Viral caught it. Not physically, but with his mind, augmented through the Shard Engine's quantum tether. He reprogrammed the detonation protocol mid-flight, forcing it to invert. Instead of destruction, the bomb became a seal. One final gate. He looked to the stars, bleeding with uncertainty. She made her choice, now I'll make mine. And he vanished into the fold. 4. Illyra's broadcast. From Nova Solis, Admiral Illyra Kale issued a galaxy-wide transmission. Her voice was quiet, tired, resolute. We are no longer exiles. We are not tyrants. We are not gods. We are free. If that makes us dangerous, so be it. If that makes us a threat to order, then order must evolve. The Accord fell the day it forgot how to choose. We remember. A future unwritten. The ether core, once fractured, stabilized into something new, a beacon rather than a prison. LYSS stood at its center, glowing with power, no longer just a child. She was gateborn, yes, but something more. She was the living question. The Reclaimer no longer whispered, it listened. For the first time in its eternity, it feared. And chose silence. End of Book 2, Embers of Dominion. Next, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Where do you go when you've rebuilt the universe? What do you become when the gods listen back? Would you like to begin Book 3? Or would you prefer a compendium of characters, technologies, or the new state of the galaxy following LYSS's choice? Here is the opening of the next arc. Celestial Exile, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Prologue, The Memory of Silence. Before the stars, before the ether, there was only the breath. It sang once, and that song became light. But what sings now may not be the breath at all. Forgotten light. In a system without name, far beyond the rimward halo, a pulse ignited. It was faint, an echo, but it was new, and that made it terrifying. A probe belonging to the ardent kin, a crystalline species who spoke through frequencies, recorded the event. It didn't transmit data. It screamed. For 3 hours straight. When recovered, the signal showed something impossible, a gate forming in real time, without construction or anchor point. A gate forming where no gate should ever be. And something was coming through. 2. LYSS Reborn. It had been 6 months since LYSS made her choice in the heart of Atrevia. She lived now aboard the Nomad Spire, a living craft grown from ether-reactive alloy and quantum memory root. It responded only to her. She traveled not to conquer, but to listen. Planets that had severed themselves from the Accord emerged. Lost human settlements blinked back into contact. Ancient vaults, long sealed against the Reclaimer, opened and found something unexpected. Hope. But LYSS couldn't sleep. Each night, she dreamed of a song, not from the Reclaimer, not from the past. Something deeper. Older. Calling not to merge, but to erase. 3. The Edge Council. In a drifting bastion near the edge of mapped space, a gathering of species, human and otherwise, met for the first time in history without the Accord. Juno Viral appeared as a hologram, his body still lost beyond the fold, guiding the council through quantum tether. Elira Kale was there in person, her presence now near mythical. She said little, but when she spoke, the galaxy listened. They named this new age the era of fractured light, not out of fear, but acknowledgement. There is no single truth, Elira said, but many lights. Let's follow them all. But even as unity bloomed, the edge pulse continued. And in secret, a final gate began to form. 4. The Gate Beyond. On a barren rock orbiting a dead star, LYSS finally found it. No ether signature, no material construction, it simply was. A spiraling void, perfectly still, a gate not made by human hands, Reclaimer code, or Accord science. It responded only to one frequency. The breath. LYSS reached toward it, and reality flinched. To be continued in Chapter 1, The Song That Isn't Sound. Would you like to continue to Chapter 1, or explore new factions, the Nomad Spire, or the mystery of the breath? Here's Celestial Exile, Book 3, Chapter 1, The Song That Isn't Sound. Celestial Exile, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Chapter 1, The Song That Isn't Sound. LYSS stood before the gate, an impossible void suspended in empty space. It hummed softly, not with noise, but with a resonance that tugged at the core of her being. She placed her hand near the shimmering edge. A ripple surged through her mind, visions not of stars or war, but of a place beyond thought, an ancient song, not heard but felt, threading through the fabric of existence. Suddenly, the void pulsed and opened. From within emerged a figure, cloaked in light and shadow, neither human nor alien, yet familiar beyond words. It spoke, not in voice, but in thought. You listen, you remember. But you must forget. For what comes is the silence before the song. And you are the key. LYSS's eyes blazed with questions, but before she could speak, the gate closed. And the void hummed louder than before, the song beginning. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 2, or explore the origins of this new figure, or dive into LYSS's evolving powers? Here's Chapter 2 continuing the story. Celestial Exile, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Chapter 2, Echoes of the Forgotten. LYSS reeled from the encounter. The figure's presence lingered in her mind like a fading melody, both haunting and compelling. Back aboard the Nomad Spire, she convened with Juno Viral via quantum comlink. His spectral form flickered, eyes sharp despite his entrapment beyond the fold. That being, Juno murmured, is not from any known faction or entity. It predates the Accord, the Reclaimer, even the Exile. But it called me key. Why? LYSS asked. Because you are the bridge between forgotten past and uncertain future. The breath they spoke of, the primal force, wants to rewrite reality itself. Meanwhile, across the scattered human settlements, strange phenomena grew. Stars blinked out and reappeared. Memories altered. Old alliances crumbled as people began experiencing shared visions, fragments of a song older than time. Elira Kale prepared the Edge Council for what was to come. We face not just war, she said gravely, but a rewriting of existence, and the song will demand a choice. LYSS knew the path forward was no longer just about survival, but understanding the silence before the song. Would you like to continue to Chapter 3, or focus on the Edge Council's politics, or explore the mysteries of the breath in depth? Here's Chapter 3 continuing the story. Celestial Exile, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Chapter 3, The Breath's Embrace. The nomad spire drifted through the void, trailing threads of shimmering ether energy. Lyss meditated within its core chamber, seeking to attune herself to the growing song in her mind. A sudden pulse shook the ship. Sensors flashed warnings. The gate's resonance had intensified, weaving itself into her very essence. Then, the presence returned, not the cloaked figure this time, but a whisper. The breath is the beginning and the end. It weaves all lives into the tapestry of the cosmos. Yet, it is forgotten, lost, bound by fear. Lyss realized the breath was not an enemy, but a primordial force, waiting to be remembered. But remembering meant change, unraveling the known laws, reshaping reality itself. Juno warned via comlink. To embrace the breath is to risk losing oneself, but it may be the only way to save what remains. Lyss's fingers trembled as the nomad spire edged closer to the silent gate. A choice awaited: surrender to the song, or resist and face oblivion. Would you like to proceed with Chapter 4, or explore the technology behind the nomad spire, or delve deeper into Juno Viral's past and his fate beyond the fold? Here's Chapter 4 continuing the story. Celestial Exile, Book 3, The Gate Beyond Stars. Chapter 4, Fractures of the Self. Lyss stood alone in the heart of the nomad spire, the silent gate looming before her like a black wound in space. The breath's song pulsed in her mind, an ancient melody that seemed to unravel her very identity. Visions crashed through her consciousness. Memories of Earth's fall. Faces of ancestors lost to exile. Fleeting glimpses of the Reclaimer's endless void. She felt herself fracturing, pieces of her soul scattering across time and space. Yet within the chaos, a single truth crystallized: she was both the key and the lock, the bridge and the barrier. A voice echoed, soft but unyielding. Only by embracing all parts of yourself can the song be completed. Gathering every shred of will, Lyss reached into the void. Her essence melded with the breath's, and in that instant, time itself shivered. The gate began to hum, not with destruction, but with creation. A new journey had begun. Would you like me to continue to Chapter 5 or explore the origins of the breath or Lyss's evolving abilities?